She's the problem. She is the problem.
What do you do when the league's brightest star keeps getting cheap-shotted and the refs just stand there like it's open mic night? Seriously, at what point do you stop calling it physical basketball and start calling it what it is? An invitation for chaos. That's the storm that's been brewing all season, and last night it finally blew the lid off. Because in the middle of all the elbows, trash talk, and so-called competitive spirit, Sophie Cunningham decided she wasn't just going to play ball. She was going to own the moment. Literally. And if you've seen the footage, you know exactly what I'm talking about. If you haven't, well, let's just say, property of Sophie Cunningham isn't a cute nickname. It's now an official WNBA plot twist. But here's the kicker. This wasn't some harmless little jab for the cameras. No, this was a straight-up public statement. A declaration of dominance that had the crowd gasping, social media melting, and players on both sides wondering if they'd just witnessed the start of a brand new rivalry or the beginning of a league-wide war. And the wildest part? It all went down with the refs still acting like they were watching a casual pickup game at the YMCA. Because when Sophie dropped that moment, she wasn't just sending a message to her opponent, she was sending it to the whole WNBA. The question now isn't whether people saw it, it's what comes next, and who's got the guts to answer back. This wasn't just another night on the WNBA schedule. This was the kind of game where every possession felt personal, every whistle, or lack of one, fueled the fire, and every player seemed ready to push the boundaries. The Fever were on edge, the opponent wasn't backing down, and the referees, well, let's just say they were letting a lot slide. The atmosphere wasn't playoff-level intensity, it was something more primal. It was basketball mixed with ego, grudges, and that unspoken, "you're not going to embarrass me" energy. It all really kicked off when Jacy Sheldon put a hard foul on Caitlin Clark. We're talking shoulder to shoulder, full commitment, the kind of contact that doesn't just stop the play, it sends a message. Fever fans immediately lost it. Social media lit up, accusing Sheldon of targeting Clark, and while some called it just good defense, others saw it as yet another example of the league letting defenders rough up its biggest star without real consequences. Caitlin didn't make a scene in the moment, but you could tell it registered with her. Then came the flashpoint everyone remembers, Marina Mabrey's infamous body check. And this wasn't subtle. Caitlin was moving up the court, and Mabrey just planted herself right into her path, delivering a collision that had more in common with hockey than basketball. It was the kind of play that makes you wonder if someone's trying to knock you out of the game. Fans erupted online, dissecting replays frame by frame, and the conversation turned ugly fast. Not just about sportsmanship, but about the WNBA's treatment of its marquee player. Somewhere in all this chaos, Sophie Cunningham was watching. She's not the type to just brush off these moments. In her mind, she was filing away every shove, every bump, every time Clark got up off the floor with that slightly dazed look. Sophie has a reputation, physical, fiery, a player who thrives when the game turns into a battle. So when she saw Clark taking cheap shots with no whistle in sight, she wasn't just shaking her head. She was making a mental note. There was going to be a moment, somewhere down the line, when she'd have her say. What nobody knew at the time was that Sophie's say wouldn't come in the form of a retaliatory foul or a quick shove. Oh, no. She had something far more theatrical, far more public in mind. The kind of move that wouldn't just get noticed in the arena, but would live forever on social media. The seeds were planted that night, and whether she knew it or not, Cunningham had just started writing one of the most talked about subplots of the WNBA season. By the time the final buzzer sounded, the game itself was almost irrelevant. The Fever had survived another physical war. Caitlin Clark had once again played through the bumps and bruises, and somewhere deep in her competitive brain, Sophie Cunningham was already plotting the property of Sophie Cunningham moment, the one that would make this rivalry unforgettable. Sophie didn't have to say a word. Her actions spoke volumes. Midway through the third quarter, with the game still tight and the crowd buzzing from earlier drama, Jacy Sheldon found herself handling the ball on the wing. That's when Sophie moved in. It wasn't reckless. It wasn't cheap. It was calculated. She met Sheldon with a hard, square-up shoulder-to-shoulder bump as she fought through a screen, making it crystal clear that she hadn't forgotten the earlier foul on Caitlin Clark. The refs didn't blow the whistle, because technically, it was textbook defense. But everyone in the arena knew what that was: a receipt. It was the kind of "I got you" moment that enforcers in the NBA used to live for. Not to injure, not to escalate into chaos, but to send a message. You don't push our star around without feeling it later. In the WNBA, though, that sort of on-court justice is almost extinct. The league has shifted toward finesse, skill, and pace. Physical intimidation has largely been scrubbed out of the culture. That's why Sophie's move stood out like a flare in the night. It wasn't dirty, but it carried an old-school edge that made the Fever bench sit up a little straighter. And here's the thing. Sheldon clearly felt it. She adjusted her dribble, hesitated just a half-second longer before making her pass, as if she was suddenly aware of where Sophie was on the floor. That's the psychological part of the game most fans miss. Physical plays aren't just about the moment. They alter the rhythm, the confidence, and the mental map of the opponent. Sophie didn't just get in her body, she got in her head. For Fever fans, it was a rare sigh of relief. Too often, they've watched Caitlin Clark take hits without a teammate stepping in to balance the scales. This time was different. This time, the message was delivered loud and clear. Indiana wasn't going to be pushed around. The crowd roared, not just because it was a solid defensive stand, but because it was a stand in every sense of the word. It was subtle enough to avoid technicals, bold enough to make ESPN's highlight reel, and perfectly timed in a game already charged with bad blood. Even the commentators hinted at it without outright saying it. That's just Sophie showing a little toughness out there. Anyone who's been around basketball long enough knew exactly what they meant. But Sophie wasn't finished. The bump to Sheldon was just the appetizer, her way of testing the waters and setting the tone. What came next was going to make her point even louder without saying a single word. Sophie Cunningham's competitive fire didn't end when the final buzzer sounded. A few days later, at a routine fan event, she was posted up at a table, Sharpie in hand, chatting and laughing with supporters as they filtered through the line. The atmosphere was light, the kind of setting where even the most intense players let their guard down. Sophie was in full fan favorite mode, flashing that trademark smirk that lets you know she's enjoying herself, but always thinking 2 moves ahead. Then, the moment that would ripple through the WNBA came sliding across the table. A fan presented her with Jacy Sheldon's rookie card. Most players would sign it without a second thought. Not Sophie. She paused, looked down at the card, and that smirk grew just a little sharper. With deliberate strokes, she wrote not just her signature, but the phrase that would send the internet into a frenzy: property of Sophie Cunningham. No hesitation, no apology, just pure, unfiltered competitive personality turned into Sharpie art. The beauty of the moment was in its layers. On the surface, it was funny, a harmless, clever jab that blended rivalry with personality. But to the fans who knew the recent history between the two players, it was a statement of ownership in the competitive sense. Sophie wasn't talking about literal possession. She was laying claim to the edge she felt she'd earned on the court. It was playful, yes, but the subtext was all about competition and pride. And in a league where personalities sometimes feel muted, that spark stood out instantly. Social media didn't just notice, it detonated. Clips from fans in the autograph line hit X, Instagram, and TikTok within minutes, each caption trying to one-up the last. Memes poured in. Photoshopped property of Sophie stickers on Sheldon's highlights, mock owned by WNBA trading cards, even edited videos of Sophie placing a sold sign on Sheldon like a real estate agent. Rivalry moments in the WNBA are rare enough, but to have one that was this photogenic, this meme-ready, and this rooted in on-court drama, it was internet gold. And the best part? Sophie knew exactly what she was doing. This wasn't an offhand moment. It was a savvy, personality-driven move that kept her name trending and kept fans buzzing about a matchup that might otherwise have faded into the box score. But as it turned out, Sophie wasn't quite finished stirring the pot. What made this moment resonate wasn't just the humor or the petty rivalry. It's the fact that it tapped into a deeper conversation that's been simmering all season: the WNBA's ongoing struggle to protect its stars. Caitlin Clark, for example, has been on the receiving end of more than her fair share of hard contact since she entered the league, and a lot of fans feel the referees have been far too lenient about it. People have watched her get knocked down, grabbed, and shoved, only for the whistle to stay silent. Whether you love or hate Clark, there's no denying the optics are bad for a league that desperately needs its star power healthy and shining on the court. In the NBA, this sort of situation used to be handled in a very specific way. You had the enforcer culture. Guys like Charles Oakley, Kendrick Perkins, or Udonis Haslem were there not just to rebound or play defense. They were there to send a message. If you took a cheap shot at their star player, you'd feel it the next trip down the floor. The NHL still has its enforcers, who protect skill players from getting targeted. But in the WNBA, that role is almost non-existent. Players rarely step into that protective, confrontational lane, which is exactly why Sophie Cunningham doing it, even in a joking way, felt different. Sophie's autograph on Jacy Sheldon's rookie card, property of Sophie Cunningham, wasn't just trash talk. It was symbolic. She's saying, "I'm staking my claim here. I'm watching, and I'm not afraid to mix it up." Most players keep it squeaky clean at public events. They'll smile, sign, maybe take a photo. Sophie took a direct jab at a rival in a completely different setting and did it with a grin on her face. That willingness to blur the line between on-court rivalry and off-court interaction is part of what made the clip instantly viral. There's also the element of fan connection. Fans love when athletes carry the competitive energy beyond the game, whether it's NBA stars subtweeting each other or NFL players making sideline jokes that spark memes. This felt like that, but in a league where those moments are far rarer. Sophie tapped into that same energy, and social media did the rest. Memes popped up comparing her to prime Draymond Green energy. Fans debated whether it was hilarious or petty, and highlight accounts posted it alongside clips of her on-court altercations. It's not every day that a WNBA player gets this much traction for something off the court, and that's why it hit so hard. In a league fighting for eyeballs, Sophie's moment was a perfect storm: a subtle shot at a rival, a nod to old-school enforcer mentality, and the kind of personality-driven drama that sports fans, especially in the social media era, can't get enough of. Look, the Sophie Cunningham story isn't just about her flexing some enforcer energy. It's about the fact she can flat-out play. Since the All-Star break, she's been one of the hottest shooters in the W, dropping double-digit scoring nights like clockwork, raining clutch threes, and shooting with efficiency that makes coaches salivate. This isn't a role player who fouls hard situation. Sophie's filling up the box score while making life miserable for opponents. That combination is deadly, because you can't ignore her on offense and you can't bully her on defense without her giving it right back. And here's the thing. In basketball, it's easy to respect a scorer and it's easy to respect an enforcer. But it's rare to find someone who can do both at a high level. Most players who take on that protector role, they're energy guys, hustle players, defensive specialists who you don't really worry about scoring. Sophie, she's splashing big-time buckets, stretching the floor, and still has the edge to get under your skin. That edge plus production formula earns respect in every league. NBA, WNBA, overseas, doesn't matter. When you can back up your mouth with buckets, the trash talk hits harder. What makes her even more dangerous is timing. Sophie's not out here just jacking shots. She's hitting momentum killers. That 1-3 in the middle of an opponent's run? That step-back jumper to silence the crowd? Those are the kind of plays that turn games around. And when you pair those momentum-shifting moments with the mental pressure she puts on opponents just by being on the floor, it's no wonder fans and players alike are calling her one of the toughest covers in the league right now. The Fever know it too. Every time Sophie gets hot, defenders have to close out harder. And that's when she uses her physicality to get inside, draw fouls, and keep you on your heels. She's the kind of player who forces a team to pick their poison, let her shoot, or let her bully you in the paint. And both options come with pain, either in the form of points on the scoreboard or bruises the next morning. Now, let's be real. After what went down, The next Fever Sun matchup isn't going to be just another game. This is brewing into a full-on rivalry. The Fever will remember the off-court shot, the hard fouls, and the way Sophie didn't blink. The Sun will want to send a message that they're not afraid of Indiana's hype machine. And when you've got Sophie in the mix, producing and enforcing, you can guarantee that the tension is going to be off the charts. This isn't just basketball anymore. This is theater, and Sophie's one of the lead actors. This whole Fever Sun beef has done something you can't fake. It's changed how people talk about these players. Before this saga, Natisha Heidemann and Rebecca Allen were mostly known for highlight plays, solid roles, and clean reputations. Sophie Cunningham was respected in Phoenix as a shooter with grit, but she wasn't a league-wide headline. Now, the moment Sophie stepped into the enforcer role, the narrative shifted. Sheldon's image in particular has taken a hit. Instead of being celebrated for her skill, she's trending for cheap shots and unnecessary contact clips. That kind of label sticks, and whether she likes it or not, it's becoming part of her identity to casual fans. Meanwhile, Sophie has gone full cult hero for Fever fans. They're calling her Black Belt Barbie, half compliment, half warning label, because she's equal parts glam and gladiator. Social media is flooded with edits of her standing next to Caitlin Clark, like a bodyguard, captions reading things like, "Touch her, and you answer to Sophie." It's part comedy, part genuine fan appreciation, and it's making her a bigger star than a stat sheet alone ever could. When a player becomes that symbolically tied to a team's heart, they stop being just an athlete. They become a brand. That brand potential is massive. You can practically see the merch line designing itself. Hoodies reading, "Property of Sophie Cunningham," shirts with her smirking mid-scuffle, mugs with the Black Belt Barbie nickname in bold pink and black lettering. And this isn't just a social media bubble. If the Fever play deep into the postseason, those slogans will be in the crowd, on signs, and plastered across TV broadcasts. For a league still fighting for mainstream merch sales, a moment like this is marketing gold. The memes, too, are giving the WNBA free advertising it couldn't buy. TikTok compilations of Sophie's best hits, literally, are racking up millions of views. Twitter threads are debating whether she's protecting Clark or stirring the pot, which only fuels more discussion. Even casual sports fans who don't watch every game are starting to learn names, faces, and backstories. And that's how rivalries turn into cultural events. This is why the Fever Sun tension matters so much for the league. It's not just two teams going at it. It's a storyline with villains, heroes, and unforgettable moments. It's giving people a reason to tune in beyond the box score. And as the next matchup looms, the hype isn't just about who will win. It's about what will happen when Sophie and Sheldon share the floor again. Because here's the truth. Skill might win games, but drama sells tickets. And right now, this rivalry is serving both. Sophie Cunningham walking up and slapping her signature on Shea Petty Sheldon's arm wasn't just a petty flex, it was a message. But here's the million-dollar question. Did that moment end the beef, or just pour jet fuel on it? Because the way Sheldon's face froze when she realized what happened, yeah, that didn't look like a "we're good now" face. That looked like the beginning of a season-long grudge match waiting to explode the next time these two share the floor. Think about it. This wasn't just any regular season dust-up. This was personal. Sophie didn't just defend Caitlin Clark. She went full WWE promo on Sheldon without saying a single word. And when players get personal in a league as tight-knit as the W, it always circles back. Next game? Every camera in the building will be locked on these two during warm-ups, during huddles, during literally any moment they're within 5 feet of each other. The crowd's gonna live for it, and so will we. So now I'm putting it to you. Fever fans, Mercury fans, WNBA fans, did Sophie's signature close the book, or is this the prologue to something way bigger? Are we going to see an escalation where Sheldon swings back, or will she take the quiet route and let her game do the talking? Because let's be real, if Sophie busts out another stunt like this, the memes are going to break the internet again. Drop your take in the comments, and don't hold back. Are you riding with Black Belt Barbie in this rivalry, or do you think Sheldon's about to pull a plot twist? Either way, make sure you subscribe and hit that bell, because when these two square off again, you better believe I'll be here to break it all down in the most savage way possible. This isn't just basketball anymore. It's must-watch drama.